Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, we're going to be taking a quick look at engine building and how a couple games utilize that mechanic to great success. So let's jump on over to the table next door and see what we have in store. Tourist City of Giants is an interesting engine building game in the fact that it is a direct confrontation or direct player interaction sort of experience. The idea is that you'll be building towers or your engine vertically. That is to say that you will have different powers that are available to you depending on the state of the game, and of course being driven by the player decisions that go throughout. The end game scenario is when the deck runs out to have the most influence. Influence is sort of illustrated by these icons here on the cards, as well as shields, attack power, and energy on some others. But the general gist is that on a turn, a player will be able to draw a card from the market and add it into their hand of 2 cards, play a card from their hand by adding it underneath a card that's already on the tower, removing a follower, an unincluded game component that basically is one of your currencies that you can use a power available on your tower, or discarding a card believably from your hand to gain a new follower. And as it turns out, the game is already about maybe partway through, but that's okay. So really quick, we'll just go over some of this iconography. Here are, again, your followers, and depending on how many are present in your tower is how many you have access to. So we'll go ahead and set that up really quick. We'll also talk about, yes, the energy here, and that is going to be dependent on some of the other abilities that you can spend your followers for to use. Some of these require certain amounts of energy, and those will be really good for you to equip onto your tower and engine build so that you can do more and more things. And then of course, yes, lastly are going to be the cards in your hand as well. So we can sort of see the chain reactions that might happen. If we are going to add this card to our tower, we can increase the defense of any other green cards by 1. Or conversely, if we were to flip over the card, we would have something a little bit more aggressive where we can launch an attack at any range, which means that we can target any level of the opposing player's tower that we want to. It'll increase our strength or attack power, as well as using the followers, we can kind of expend them for attack power as well. Or if we were to stick maybe with the science, we would increase our energy output and also have 1 more influence, which is again the end game win condition. So a lot of different choices. The beauty is that, yep, every card has 2 different abilities to choose from. And so you are pretty much just trying to outwit your opponent as best as you can to create not necessarily the tallest tower, but the best one for sure. Another really neat thing about Tourists is the Wheel of Influence. That's going to be this card right up top here, and it's going to start at 0, which says allows you to draw a card from the discard pile when you turn the card to darkness. It already starts there, so nothing's going to happen, but if you switch to any other faction, you'll get influence points, and for some of them, extra abilities as well in game. So there are certain cards in the deck that allow you to influence or turn the Wheel of Influence. Let's see here. We can find one. There we go. Such as the Altar, which will allow you to do so when you add the card to your tower, thusly, and then spend on either the same turn with your second action or a subsequent turn, spending a follower to do so. Now, there is a little bit of ambiguity in terms of whether this benefit affects an entire tower or only the factions of that type, but to me the intent is that it is for the specific level cards. Some other neat effects also include scoring, let's see, for every type that you might have in your tower, and of course just straight up launching attacks, which always feels pretty cool. So a head-to-head elimination game, you can see how as you progress and get more abilities available to you, you start to be able to perform actions at perhaps a more efficient rate and accomplish even more per turn. And as an 18-card card game, it comes in the sweet 18-card hook box, which, yeah, has the art sort of extended across the edges, which looks pretty sweet as a possible screen. Now I'm inspired to create a game of maybe a quick little dungeon delving or dungeon crawl with something like this. and then all the rules inside as well. And that's the general gist of the engine building competitive game, Tourist City of Giants. Also expandable to more than 2 players, although each pack includes enough for the head-to-head. Hamster Park is another game that uses the visuals of the components in a really great way, in addition to the pretty awesome and iconic artwork that's already present. As an engine building game, Hamster Park, you are trying to be the first player to reach 21 fun before the end of the game. If all cards are gone by then though, all you have to do is see who has the most and determine the winner that way. Essentially, you'll have a number of resources that you'll be tracking with these cubes, as well as different units or hamsters that are going to be visiting your park. A very simple turn-based game, you will first buy a feature card or try to get more money if you don't have enough. Then attach the feature to your park, change any attributes as listed on the cards, and then move hamsters if able to unlock any special bonus effects. For instance, this roller coaster card is a really powerful one. Of course, it's a little bit expensive. It's going to cost you 3 coins, but you'll get to increase your energy and add an extra hamster anywhere in your park that has a little house icon on it. Then, because of this M symbol, which stands for move, you can move up to your energy levels. So after you've added here, you can move a total of 4 spaces, either with the same hamster or split across the 2. And the reason why that's important is because, especially for the roller coaster, if you have 4 hamsters on the card, you can also increase your fun by 1 for each transport in your park. So transports are going to be listed, I believe, by color as well as in the title of the attraction. So unfortunately, we can't quite get this card on our turn, so let's look maybe to something a little bit more affordable. The planetarium is a culture card. It allows us to move. It will cost us all of our money to start, but we'll also get to increase our fun, so 1 point closer to winning the game, as well as increasing our energy, so we can begin to move our hamsters onto this attraction. Now the other great thing too is, as a culture card, if it's the first one, this one's for free, so that's probably a really good opening move to take. I think we'll do just that, so we'll have to make sure that it can connect appropriately with the openings on the edges, and I want to say that maybe we'll build it like this. So we'll increase our fun by 1 to 3, increase our energy by 1 to 3, and we can move. So we can move up to 2 hamsters. Well, in this case, we have to move only the 2 hamsters, and we can go here, and maybe we'll just leave 1. The energy does not deplete as we go on, but the money will as we spend it. When a card is acquired from the pet store or the market, it'll be restocked with a new one, and then play will resume clockwise. So we'll just kind of continue on, and I'll speed through a little bit to see what the game will look like as it's further along. And so not only are you trying to optimize what you can do each turn, but also placement of your hamsters is just as important when you're trying to get to certain destinations, perhaps, and how you build those paths might come back to bite you. And so now that we've arrived here, we can see that our engine, our park, is growing. Let's go ahead and get the full thing on camera for right now. And if you were paying attention, maybe I could have been a little bit more strategic about where I was placing these so that I could get this factory without also triggering the swimming pool negativity. But very simple, again, super fun and great artwork. I'm really excited to try to show this off to my little cousins who love Machi Koro, because as fun as that one is, especially when you can win things on other people's turns, I think the puzzle and the strategy about how to optimize your engine to get just bigger and bigger turns throughout the game is going to also be very exciting for them. So thank you, Drew Gomez, for opening up a hamster park in our home. Kingdom's Candy Monsters is a pretty awesome engine building game in the same vein as Splendor, but maybe with a little bit more decision making. In this, you will be competing to collect as much candy as you can by the end of the game to see more or less who has created the most efficient army of candy collecting monsters. At the beginning of the game, everyone will start with 1 and 5 sugar cubes. Now these are important because they are your main currency to purchase either ability cards, fellow monsters to recruit to your army, and to also feed your monsters at the end of specific rounds. So to begin, on our handy dandy player action card, you can perform any of the 3 main actions during your turn. You can either buy an ability, buy a monster, or collect extra sugar cubes. There are also a ton of different icons to keep in mind when playing. So to start off, be sure to note at the beginning of your turn any green abilities. In this case, we're going to gain 2 more sugar cubes. And now we have a total of 7 to potentially spend. We could either purchase a new monster that we then kind of align here into our tableau, or we can spend for an ability card, which can either be an improvement or upgrade to a monster that we already have, or can be used as an extra bonus for more currencies in the future. So here go my 4 sugar cubes into the main supply, and then a new card, action card, will be drawn to replenish the market for the next player. Turns will continue to go clockwise until we reach the end of the round, at which point we will draw an event card and then also resolve this first player card too. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Market. Players may discard 1 monster they control for 3 candy or victory points. Oh man, if I had picked something up, then I could do it, but I don't have anything to offer other than the one that I started with, and I don't think I'm going to get rid of them, so I will leave this alone. But other players might do so to get a couple extra victory points there. Now for the first player, we will possibly discard 1 card from the kingdom, which again is the central play area, the main market, and then we will pass the card to the player on the left. I think we'll get rid of this Marinboo, just so no one else can take them. Replace it, so then there's always 3, and we'll just continue to take turns doing what we can to optimize our engine, basically getting free actions from the upgrades and whatnot, so that each turn gets bigger and badder. And so a lot of the fun in Kingdom's Candy Monsters is trying to get all these things to coordinate and chain react together so that you can get, again, a bunch of free stuff as you're playing along. Now, in our example here that we've already built out, we have this monster ability that activates when you buy a monster. Unfortunately, because I didn't use it as an upgrade to one, I just sort of ignore this text for now and use it only for the top stuff. But you'll notice here, for each candy of 1 color, monsters of the same candy color cost 1 less sugar to hunt. We have 3 green candy. So if any of these were green, like the Shukalra, we can actually get it for almost free. We'll subtract 3 from the sugar cost and be able to buy it for only 2. Now, unfortunately, we only have 1 sugar cube left, so maybe on our next turn, we'll use the collect sugar action to get 5 cubes back. And play will continue, each player possibly getting more action cards or more monsters to activate on their turn, and resolving different events. Now, if we ever draw a black candy card from the event deck, we will have to feed all of our monsters. In the case of the Shukalra, we'll have to pay 2 sugar cubes. And for our starting monster, we have to pay 1 sugar cube for every other monster that we've collected. So in this case, Uno will cost us 1. And how do we win, of course, is going to be based on how many candy tokens we have at the end of the game. Now we're going to get those based on certain abilities that might get us candy, which is pretty great, as well as when we acquire new monsters, possibly checking to see the different types that we have. So there's a little bit of extra set collection here. If we were, for example, to acquire a monster that completes the set, one of each different type, we will get a free candy token to add to our winnings. We will also score for every piece of candy at the top of our monster cards, every piece of candy on the top of our untucked ability cards, and 1 piece of candy for every tucked ability or upgrades to our current pool of monsters. For every 4 sugar cubes that you have at the end of the game, you'll also receive 1 victory point candy. And unfortunately, for every black sugar cube that you might obtain from the various uses of cards, or if you have to feed your monsters and can't, is worth a -1. And it should be noted that during the game, you can exchange 4 sugar cubes for a victory point token as well. And that's a general overview of Kingdom's Candy Monsters, a really slick and very inviting engine building game where each turn you're hoping to get bigger and badder to outdo your opponents and show them who has the biggest sweet tooth in the land. I hope you enjoyed this little overview about how things can just get bigger and bigger as you're playing, as you're building your engine, and maybe some ideas for how you can utilize it in one of your designs. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on future content like this. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint, and together, let's build something great.